Hello, everybody, and welcome to this latest in the ValuesJam guest session series. And Jessica and Jeff, brilliant to have you with us today. And to start with, please introduce yourselves. Either of you to go first. You'll have to sort that out.
Ladies first.
Yeah, and tell us about the great work that you do.
Well, thank you so much for having us on, Alan. This is a true honor, and I'm very excited to talk about values today. My name is Jessica Villegas. I'm the founder of Hi-Lite Coaching and Consulting. We work with teens and young adults, and this is just the perfect space to be in. We're really super passionate about values and living a life of values. But I've got 3 kids, all daughters. Yes, I know you're jealous. 2 of them are teenagers. One is younger. She's 6 years old. A couple dogs and an amazing husband. I live in Florida, right near Orlando, right near Magic Kingdom, Disney World. So yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Brilliant. Thanks. And Jeff.
Yes, Alan, again, like Jessica said, thank you very much for this opportunity. And I too live in Orlando, about probably 15 minutes from Jessica. I don't know where she is on your screen. But I've been married for 17 years, and I have a 15-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter. And values is a critical conversation that we try to have on a regular basis in our family, as well as, like Jessica said, is that we talk to the young people that we work with on a regular basis of how important it is to have a compass, and that's their values.
Yeah, and wouldn't it be great if all over the world it was embedded into the curriculum that young people were equipped or awakened to the topic of values at the beginning of their adult lives, so that it could provide a foundation for them for the rest of their lives. One day, I believe it will happen.
Yes. And I think it starts with us as adults living our values and being an example to them, so it doesn't make it as complicated and as foreign. And I feel as adults, we've gotten very far away from, we say our values, but we don't always live our values.
Yeah, dead right, dead right. Okay, so let's get down to our values jam. Here's the deck. So I'm just going to tip out the cards. And Jeff, how many piles would you like me to place in front of me?
Let's do 3 piles.
3 piles, okay. And I'll make them different sizes. And Jessica, would you like the left, right, or center pile? Left. Are you left-handed?
No.
No? Okay. So I'm just going to quickly count, well, as quick as I can, count these cards. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 22. So Jeff, what number between 1 and 22?
Let's go 8.
Okay. Okay, so this is the card that we're going to play with. Positive impact, which might be relevant to your work, actually.
No coincidence there, I'm sure.
Well, goodness me. And so the first question is this. What does positive impact mean? And what does it look, feel, and sound like?
I'll let Jessica go first.
Okay. To me, positive impact means putting good energy out into the world, helping other people feel good, not only about who they surround themselves with, but about themselves, and in creating like a ripple effect, so that they too want to go out and create positive impact in their communities, and they inspire other people to then create positive impact, and the cycle just continues. What does it look, feel, and sound like? Is that what you asked, Alan?
Yeah, that's right. Go for that now if you wish.
Positive impact looks like collaboration and happiness, and being in a place of genuine empathy, compassion, and care for one another. It looks like banding together and working as a team. It feels good. It feels like trust. Did you say sounds?
Look, sound, feel, yeah.
Okay. It sounds like positivity, positive words, just good upbeat messages that create that positive energy around us.
Great, thanks. And Jeff, how much of that resonates with you, and what have you got to add? And maybe anything that you disagree with? What's different?
Well, this is why Jessica and I work well together, because it's almost identical to what I would share and say, is that, adding to that is joy, creating joy, being a good neighbor. All comes down to us being intentional outward and not expecting everybody to do things to us. Positive impact is outward facing, where inward facing is more selfish and more not collaborative. And so the more collaborative we can be, another word when she was talking is safe. And I know we always talk about that we create a safe place. And so positive impact, the safer you feel, the more impact that you can create for the other person.
Great. Okay. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because both of you have really gone down the personal positive impact route. And what I would add, I think, is a maybe more science-based view. So if I think of positive impact, for me, it's about positively different than it was before. So if you do a project, for instance, you leave it in a much better place than it was before, and you're able to say, I had a positive impact on that situation. I think there's also something about qualitative and quantitative measurement of that impact. And I don't believe positive impact can be assessed purely by the quantitative, because of the stuff that you've talked about, the both of you. But I think that a combination of, what are the hard measures in order to be able to prove that you've had that positive impact, and then some of the softer stuff around the feelings and energy and stuff like that as well. And for look, sound, and feel, I love what Jessica said about it sounds positive and upbeat. And positive impact for me is, when you walk into a workplace or an environment where you've got this hubbub going on, and it's because people are getting on really well together, and you can feel that energy, compared to the place that you go into and it's like deathly silent, and you just feel that there's something wrong with this place. You don't know what it is yet, but there's something wrong. And then images, positive impact. I guess I've got an image of a plus sign. That's pretty simple. And then the sound, I've got people going, wow, it's just like, how did that happen? That's amazing, kind of thing. Okay, so that's a great start, and what a brilliant value for us to have chosen. So thank you both for teaming up to be able to choose that one. And let's choose another question then. So when have you experienced positive impact, the both of you? And this could be either you've experienced it personally, you've made it happen, or you've witnessed it, or somebody's told you about it. Just an experience of positive impact.
Well, I'll jump in on this one, because I have something that comes to very recent mind for me, and I feel that it squishes yours and ours together.
Okay, great.
And it's in what we do on a regular basis. So we coach teens and young adults with success life skills. And like we talked about earlier, is the first one's around values and helping people identify their values. So how we created and in this interaction, I think the coaching, not me or the individual, created a positive impact. It was the relationship that we built. So that goes back to what we had shared, is that this individual was really struggling on what to do after high school, had tried a full year of school, of college, and it just didn't resonate. And all he wanted to do was work a little bit and then sit around the house the rest of the time. And so he came and worked with me for 12 weeks. And through that, and uncovering his values and him talking through all the different parts of his life that he knew he liked, but had never verbally talked about them, he started to reshape his future. And I say that because through the time we sat together, he ended up re-enrolling himself into school, finding another job, having a 10-year plan. I mean, how many of us don't plan further than a Friday? But he now has a 10-year plan. And he's built a system of positive impact that's going to help him reach that. And so now he knows every decision he makes today is going to impact that 10-year goal that he has to open his own business.
Wow.
And he's 19 years old. And to have that wisdom already that was in him. So it wasn't me, it was just questions that I asked in the ETA system that Jessica had created that nurtured that positive impact for him to bring that out of himself. And we can quantitatively say he is on a better path than he was previously.
What a brilliant example. Thank you so much. And what sort of business is he going to open, or does he not know that yet?
A dance studio.
Wow.
Yeah. And all he's done, he's danced himself forever. And he's been an instructor, but he's like, I don't know anything about business, but I know it's a dream that I have. And so we laid out his goal. We started with his big goal and started creating small goals after that. And one of which I didn't tell him. He brought it out. He's like, I need to know about business and finance. And I said, okay, well, where's the best place to learn about that? He goes, well, mentors is probably a good place, but I don't even know what questions to ask. I was like, okay, where can you get a business and finance vacuum that gives you a lot of the basics? And he goes, well, probably school. I was like, okay, so where do you think you should go now? And so next thing I know is he comes the next week and says, my dad and I researched schools and we found a business, certificate degree at the local community college, and I've re-enrolled and I've started. So
brilliant.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And it was because of him seeing the need to change and create a better positive impact in his life. That's where the decisions started to be made on his own without me telling him to do it. So we talked about earlier, as adults, we have a tendency to instruct, and this is what you need to do, where now he believes in his decision-making ability to the point where he knows the path to follow and where he wants to go. And so now all of his decisions are based on that.
Brilliant. And Jessica, before you share your example, any comments or thoughts around Jeff's example?
I just love it. I love those success stories. They're, I don't know, it just makes me feel so good to know that someone's life has been positively impacted and they've gone from being one way, which kind of feels empty, to being a very productive and excited and actively engaged person in their life.
Yeah.
Yeah, very exciting.
Have either of you come across a book called Taming Tigers by Jim Lawless? I think it is. Jim Lawless. Come across that? So he's all about being the best that you can be. And he was challenged when he was doing a talk once by a member of the audience, because they said, you really need to put what you preach into practice. So he took on a wager with a member of the audience that he would become a jockey, right? So race a horse. And he explained that after the event, he started thinking, oh my goodness, what have I let myself in for? And he had a chat with his family around, are there any people locally where I can learn how to ride a horse? And then he kind of checked himself because he realized that some kind of two-bit horse riding local business is not really going to lead him to the top level. So he then went about doing some research and finding the best trainers and the best jockeys in the country, and started to approach them to see if they would help him. And he got lots of rejections, but he got one that said, yeah, we'll help you. Anyway, long story short, he ended up riding a horse in a proper professional race. And so it's just to show that, this guy in the dance studio, why not? Why can you not own a world-class dance studio with the right attitude and resources and plan? So I just wanted to share that book with you. He's a great guy, actually. One of his another one of his stories is he says, you're in a bar, and he's a guy, and he says, and you see this really beautiful girl just in the mid distance in the bar, and so you say, right, I'm going to go and introduce myself. and you take the first pace, and a voice in your head says, "Hey, where are you going?" And you say to the voice, "I'm going to introduce myself to that beautiful girl over there." And the voice says, You're going to introduce yourself to her? Well, she's not going to be interested. What are you on about?" And and the voice says, "Look at you, look at your face, look at your physique." And the guy says, "Yeah, but I've got a sense of humor. That's going to stand me in good stead." And the voice says, "Well, I really doubt it very much, but if you're determined to do this, you go ahead." So he says, and so you take those steps in that direction, and then 2 minutes later, you find yourself standing in front of a urinal in the gents. and he's bottled it, right? So, and then he goes on about how you overcome that tiger in your head. That's why the book's called Taming Tigers, in order to get the very best for you. I'll send you a link to the book. It's worth a read. It's only a short book. So, Jessica, what about your example of positive impact?
Oh man. Well, positive impact that I've experienced has probably been really in overcoming my childhood struggles, and what you just spoke about, taming tigers. When I was a teenager, I come from a family that is not necessarily successful. They've made choices that have landed them in prison, drug rehab, different things like that. Okay. And when I was young, I absorbed their identities.
Yeah.
And the conversation in my head became very much, who do you think you are? Look where you come from. You don't have money. People are interested in someone like you with a family like yours. You cannot be a person who makes a good income and has a stable family and lives a life of your dreams, because you don't come from that. And I would say that through studying different cultures and through lots of self-improvement books and being really, really committed to arguing and winning the argument with those voices in my head, I was able to positively impact the trajectory of my life. And through that positive impact, I've taken all of those very difficult experiences as a child, very, very difficult, traumatic experiences. And I've brought them to where I am right now in my life and in creating what we have created for youth, to connect them with the very same hope in their futures, the very same limiting belief conversations. And I love how you talked in the beginning about how you listen to your intuition, because I think that me tapping in with that small voice that said, these bigger voices are lying to you, and you see success all around you, even though you don't necessarily know anyone successful, and not very many people who are successful have invested any time in you and shown you any of the tools or the way in which to be successful. It can be done.
Yeah.
And I've listened to that small voice. It's brought me where I am today. And if I were going to say anything about like positive impact I have experienced, has been through listening to my intuition and telling those tigers that they don't have any place in my life.
Wow.
So I would say that is the positive impact I've experienced.
Yeah. Powerfully put, Jessica. And Jeff, any comments or thoughts on what we've just heard there from Jessica?
No, I mean, it's definitely, when you see what she's been able to do just in the past 3 years and making an impact, a positive impact in the community with young people and being recognized for that. And I know that's not what she's going for. It's also just a reassurance when you see and you hear parents messaging. So not just the people that we work with and seeing the impact that she's been able to create, but it's when the parents come and say that you've given my daughter back, you've given me my son back, you've given hope to them when they thought that there was no hope. So we always learn. And as we battle our own tigers, we try to help others with tips and tricks to help battle their own. And so when she was talking, I had that visual of the trainer that holds the chair and the whip. And I feel so many times that that's what we serve as coaches, is we're standing there next to them with a chair and a whip as they're going forward. And we're saying, we're here, you can do it, keep moving forward. And then when things start to go maybe a little south and you could tell that they're afraid of the tiger, then we help and step in and try to give them some distance to where they can process what their next move will be.
Great. And there's a couple of things here. So are you familiar with Susan David's work? So Susan David has written a book called Emotional Agility. And when she's talking about courage, I really like the way she describes this. So she says that courage is not an absence of fear. In fact, it's walking with fear. Mm-hmm. And I just think that is, I get a bit of a tingle on the back of my neck when I say it. I just think it's a brilliant way, because we think that we're conditioned to think that they're opposites, right? And that you can't be brave if you're scared. But what she says is, yes, you can. You know, that's normal. You just got to live with it and be brave. Okay, and I think because you've both been talking about the positive impact at a very personal level, you've brought this example into my mind. I was introduced by a mutual acquaintance to a guy who is English. He was a teacher, and he went to China to teach English. And while he was there, he thought it would be a really good idea to learn how to do martial arts, which you might do. And unfortunately, he had an injury to his leg and needed an operation. And then the operation went wrong. So he kind of lost the use of his leg, or pretty much. So now he's disabled and was unemployed. And I was introduced to him to start working with him on his values and the My 31 Practices program. And we were talking about this just before we came on air. Basically, it's about conscious daily practice in honor of your values. Now, because he's at home and he's got a lot of time on his hands, he was able to do this excellently. Did it just so well. And after we'd been working together for about, probably it was 6 months on a call, he said to me, Alan, I don't say this lightly, but this has changed my life. And what he explained was that previously he was consumed with what he could not do. Whereas now at the end of every day, he had been successful in honoring his practice in honor of his value. And that gave him a greater sense of confidence. And I just had a call with him yesterday, actually. He's dealing with some family issues, but he's really on it. And he's so sure of himself and so confident. It's brilliant.
Isn't it amazing when you believe, when you believe that you can do something, what you're capable of?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so we've gone right into the big, fantastic, enjoyable, positive impact space there. So let's try and bring ourselves down to the ground a bit and go to the opposite side of the coin. So where have you noticed a lack of positive impact? So maybe, Jessica, you could start.
I would say over the last few years, we are seeing less and less of a positive impact in the lives of our young people through the educational system. And I say that because we haven't overhauled our educational system in over 100 years. We haven't really changed the way that we approach educating young people. And we live in such an advanced time. And the things that kids really need to learn before they go out into the big world are critical thinking skills and the ability to connect with others in an impactful and persuasive way, giving them skills to be successful as they're negotiating in a job interview, feeling confident through courage to do hard things like public speaking. I think that some of the skills that our young people really, really need, whether they go to college or they don't, are being glossed over, and they are a big piece of why we're seeing such mental health issues with our young people right now. So I would say the lack of positive impact really has been in the schools. It's almost been in the reverse. And I would love to see it flip on its head.
Yeah. Well, maybe we shouldn't be surprised that we're going in this direction. But Jeff, I'm guessing you're going to be fairly in agreement here.
Ditto. It is, and you look at it. They say, "How do you boil a frog? 1 degree at a time."
Yeah.
And you see that slow shift that when the industrial giants back in the 20s created the school system that exists today, they're getting exactly what they want. People who can't think, that just act, and they'll go do their thing and then move on their way. And that's not what civilization was built on. Not just the US, but entire civilizations were not built that way. And you just see that slowly degrading spirit. You just don't see it as often. And, the other thing that I think creates negative impact comes from comparison. There's that phrase that comparison is the thief of joy. And society is just in such a tragic spiral, out of control of comparing. It's everybody's comparing to what someone else is doing and where they're at in their life without pulling back the layers. A, what work did it take to get there? And B, are they really happy? I was listening to a Jordan Peterson conversation this morning, and he was talking about so many people see, that person that's zooming down the highway in their fancy Porsche, and they're like, man, I wish I was that person. But they don't know that that person may be speeding down the highway ready to wrap himself around a tree.
Yeah.
And we just don't see those things. And it goes back to what Jessica had shared, is that you have a lack of joy, which again is the opposite of the positive impact we talked about. Not just happiness. Happiness is fleeting, but joy is something that just stays there forever. And you see people that have true joy, regardless of where they're at in life, whether they work at McDonald's or they're a massive multi-billionaire CEO. If they have joy, it comes across no matter what. And so when I look at negative impact, those are the things that I see as what Jessica had shared. And then also just that dangerous game of comparison.
Yeah, they're both great examples. I'd like to start with Jessica's because, I think this is what you've alluded to, but the school system is no longer fit for purpose. It's a totally different context now compared to what it was invented for. And if you think about, even 30 or 40 years ago, you could acquire knowledge through the education system that would serve you quite well for your lifetime career. So you become an accountant, right? And then with that knowledge, you can be an accountant for 40 years or whatever it is. But now, because the pace of change is so fast, knowledge today is redundant tomorrow. So knowledge is no longer the really powerful currency. And so just like Jessica was saying, I think that now we need to equip young people with critical thinking and relationships and confidence and resilience. And they then need to choose the skills that are appropriate for whatever it is at that stage of their lives. And we can't predict that because things are changing so quickly. And then I love what you're saying, Jeff, about the comparison piece as well. And it's kind of, the only person that you can really compare yourself is you. So, are you better today than you were yesterday? And can you be better tomorrow? That's so much easier than beating yourself up, comparing yourself against all this stuff of which you only see the tip of the iceberg, like you said, with the guy in the Porsche going down the highway. Right. Okay. So in ValuesJam, there's also an opportunity for us to invent our own question about positive impact. So I don't know whether you want to do this kind of tag up and do it between you, or whether you want to have a go each, and then we'll all answer the question. But it's ask your own question about positive impact, beginning with who, what, where, when, why, or how.
I can go.
Sure.
Okay. So my question is to the audience. What can you do and who can you positively impact today through just a very small action, random act of kindness, compliment, find something small to positively impact somebody's life today?
Okay. And if you were to answer your own question, Jessica, how are you going to do that?
Through the work that I do every day. I
So-
work with my, yeah,
So have you got sessions booked for today?
I do. I have two.
All right. And can you think of something that you're going to do that maybe before this call you hadn't thought you were going to do?
Something that I thought I wouldn't do.
Yeah, so has anything that we've discussed so far given you a new idea that you might be able to use in your sessions today that you think is going to create an even greater positive impact?
I might talk about the example of taming your tiger.
Okay.
Taming that large voice. What is the tiger telling you today?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And Jeff, what about you?
So similar, but instead of creating positive impact for somebody else, what kind of positive impact can I make on myself today? And very similar to what Jessica had shared about challenging the tiger with someone else is looking in the mirror and taking a moment to, and I've been in the middle of a self-audit and self-coaching over the last several weeks of really just looking at the progress and seeing how far I've come, and then where else do I need to go to continue that journey forward. And just like your client is, accept that I can believe in myself and be able to create if I have a positive impact on me, that increases my impact on other people.
Yeah, okay. And I think the question that I'm tempted to ask is, it's something about where can you find the opportunities to create a positive impact? So maybe this is a bit like Jessica's, because I think sometimes, we're a bit too focused on what we're going to do. And we're a bit blinkered, so that all of this stuff around us that's happening with opportunity gets overlooked sometimes. So for instance, when was it? Last week, I went to do some shopping, food shopping, and I had a big basket of stuff. And then this lady came up behind and she had like 4 things in her basket. And so I just said to her, do you want to go in front of me? Do you want to go ahead? And she looked at me as if I was some sort of strange creature. She was just totally surprised. But she said, are you sure? And I'm like, well, yeah, it's gonna take less than a minute to get through the cashier. So go ahead. And she was really pleased. Now you've got to be tuned in and awake to those opportunities, because if you're on your phone or not paying attention, then it passes you by. And I think it's quite interesting, actually. Let me ask you about this, because nobody would have thought bad of me if I hadn't done that, would they? They wouldn't, nobody would have thought, hey, that guy didn't let them in. So what's that about? I don't know what the question is here, actually, but it's something about opportunities are there to create a positive impact. So why do we not grasp them more readily?
Tiger.
But sometimes the tiger's asleep, though, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's the tiger talking us into, look, people are going to think you're weird if you let them go forward. It's going to slow you down. What else are you going to have to do today if you don't get this extra minute? It's why people cut you off in traffic. It's why we get frustrated when somebody takes an extra half second to go before when the light turns green. So it's that constant, we're chasing the tiger. We're chasing that moment of just selfishness. And it goes back to what Jessica said at the beginning around positive impact, is thinking, how is this going to impact someone else? And just having that thought, and can it be positive that lends ourselves to letting someone get in front of you in a grocery line or buying somebody behind you coffee, and it will just blow their mind. Like a $3 gesture will absolutely change the course of someone's day in a positive way. But
Yeah.
I feel like we talk ourselves out of that because people think that we're going to be weird.
Okay. Jessica, what are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts on this would be to challenge people to be more observant.
Yeah.
Observant of themselves first, observing when they aren't observant. It's like meta observation. Yeah, just setting small challenges each day to, instead of being distracted by what I need and making it about me and making it about my results, how can I help impact someone else's results? How can I look around me and see what good needs to be in the world? And the world could mean right here in the grocery line, right? It could mean letting someone cross the street or holding a door for someone. It doesn't have to be a person. It doesn't have to be a specific type of person. You can just do these kind things. And when you are doing that, you're putting like micro doses of positive impact into someone else's life. And then you're helping them to be observant of a time that maybe they can do something kind for someone else.
Yeah. You've reminded me of a story I'd like to share with you. Actually, I went to an event, and it was a guy who was speaking, and at the end of the event, he explained that under everybody's chair there were three things. One was a £1 coin. Secondly was a small candy bar. And thirdly was like a plastic disc. And it said something on it like, I think it said "be kind" or something like that. And he said, I just invite you to use these three items in any way that you wish. And so I was leaving the venue, and the candy bar wasn't one that I particularly liked. And there was an audio-visual technician guy just walking by. So I said, hey, do you like these? And he said, yes. So I gave him that. Then it was an evening event. So I got home reasonably late, and I was going to get some takeaway food. And while I was waiting for it, there was a charity box on the counter. And I nearly put the £1 in there, thinking, that I will have used that £1. And then I checked myself and I said, that's really lazy. You could do better than that. So what I decided to do was keep the £1 in my trouser pocket, so that whenever I put my hand in my pocket, it reminded me of this gesture of kindness. And a few weeks later, I was at King's Cross St. Pancras. So it's where Eurostar goes from London to Paris and to Brussels. And I don't know why, but I noticed that I had a €5 note in my wallet from a previous trip, and I didn't have any trips coming up. So I went up to the Eurostar, a group of Eurostar staff, and explained that I'd been to this event. Again, I said, you might think this is a bit weird, but can you bear with it? I explained the event. And then I said, and so I've got this coin that's reminding me to be kind. And so I've got this €5 note. Would you please identify a child who's getting on your train today and give it to them with this disc that says "be kind," and ask them to enjoy spending the €5, but to be kind to somebody else when they get home. And there were 4 of them, 3 ladies and a guy, and they all kind of squealed with delight. It was just like, and I've no idea what happened. They might have spent the money on some wine or something, I suppose, but I hope they did what they said they were going to do. But it Jessica, I think you reminded me of that, because what you were talking about is, just putting it out there into the world, even though you might never know what actually the positive impact was. And maybe we're just too trained to do things for a return for ourselves.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Yeah. When we make life about other people, we find ourselves in a new, it's like a paradigm shift. When we make life about other people, life becomes so much more abundant in ways that we never realized.
Yeah.
Right. And going back to Jeff's point, talking about joy, like you become abundant with joy.
Yeah.
And even though there are things that are in the background that are difficult, it could be finances, it could be relationships, it could be health. That joy is what will carry you through those difficult times. And when you make things about other people, you get to experience so much more of that joy. And so you, in a way, you're giving back to yourself by making it about others. And you're helping yourself through difficult times in life and even amazing times in life by that joy that you get in return.
Yeah, it's a good summary. Jeff, you got anything to add to that?
I was on mute. No, I don't.
Okay. Sorry, you sounded as though you were going to say something.
Yeah, no, not at all. I was going to just ramble and say the same thing she said, but there's no point because she said it very well.
Okay, so I think that I don't, a bit like Jeff's intimating here. It's like, Jessica, you put that so well, and I think that that's a really natural way to start to bring our Values Jam to a close. But there is one final question for you guys, and that is, what are you encouraged to do differently about positive impact as a result of our conversation today?
For me, it's to be more intentional. Just the examples that we just gave is find ways to put more positivity that is easily transferred. So yes, being kind to people, doing those things helps, and that's paying things forward. But thinking of a physical gesture like you shared, Alan, is something that I want to do, because that's something that you can, not that I'll ever see it, but it'll constantly get paid forward physically, and then people will be able to transfer that.
Okay. And if I was to ask you what your first baby step towards that could be, is there something that's happening today or tomorrow that you're going to be able to start to work towards that?
I've got to think of what that token of positivity would be, but it could be, again, the example that we shared before of just buying somebody a cup of coffee, and doing something like that could be the first step.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Jessica?
So earlier, Alan, you said something about like a more scientific approach to measuring positive impact around quantitative data. And it reminded me, like, I love data. I used to work in supply chain logistics. I lived in spreadsheets all day long, manipulating and looking for opportunities to improve processes. And I would like to get more quantitative with the impact that we make in our community. And I don't know what, I suppose the first step would be understanding what our measurements might be, like some KPI type things.
Yeah.
But I felt inspired by, you talking about the scientific approach to that positive impact, because that's an important piece in our society. People want to know, okay, you have this person saying this thing, but I want to see, people want to be able to see impact. So I appreciate that. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Okay. And just listening to what you said there, I always think of world-class athletes in this space, because, they time themselves, they measure what they do, and they're able to say, I'm 0.5 of a second faster this week than I was last week. And when you've got that understanding at that level of detail, it's a really strong motivator for you, because it's fact, it's indisputable. Having said that, I've also seen the way in which measurement can be really damaging. So in my first book, there's an example of a call center business, and what they did was they gave the call center operators a financial bonus for answering the calls within, I think it was 4 rings or something like that. And what was happening was that everybody was making their bonuses, but customers were complaining a lot. And when they investigated, they found out that people who were on a call were just cutting that call to be able to answer the incoming call within the 4 rings and make their bonus. So all I would say on the measurement piece, Jessica, is be careful what you wish for and think about it really carefully, because sometimes you can actually have the opposite impact of what you had intended. And what am I? So this conversation, I've really enjoyed this because of the focus on positive impact from a personal perspective. And so I'm going to be giving some thought to the rest of the calls that I've got this week with people, and how can I make it a better call for them than it was going to be before we've had this conversation. And that will be different for each of them, but I'm going to make a conscious choice and effort to do something that will make it better for them than it was going to be. So thank you for that.
Well, I got to say, Alan, you've created a positive impact because of your questions and pushing us to think of something to actually do, and to watch you genuinely think how you would answer the same questions. So I've got to say, you've made a positive impact on me today.
Yeah.
Well, likewise, guys. It's just been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks.